Yeah, I think it is, and I've been asked it many times as well. The key thing to understand is that what people pay is based on their use of the scarce resource, which is how much their carbon footprints, how much fossil fuel they burn. What they receive back is not based on how much you burn as an individual. It's your share of the revenue generated by everybody who's paying to use the carbon sink. So it's an example of what sometimes, not to lapse into economies, but it's called a fee-based system. You pay fees for your use of a common resource based on the extent of your use, and you receive the money back. Sorry?
Okay. I don't understand.
If you're paying $5,000 to heat your house, you may get $3,000 back.
But if you're paying $1,000 to heat your house, you still get $3,000 back. Right? So here's an example. In Silicon Valley, there are office buildings where they have limited parking space. Right? 1,000 people work in the building. There's parking space for 500 people. What do? Right? Well, you don't make it free to park there. Right? There's limited parking space. You charge people to park there. That's the fee. Right? If you drive to work and pay, you have to pay to park. Right? At the end of the month, all the money that's collected from charging for the parking is distributed to all the 1,000 people who work in the building on an equal per person basis. So the person who drives to work every day in a single occupancy vehicle pays more than they get back. The people who carpool might get back more than they pay. And the people who take public transport or bike to work, they don't pay anything, and they get their share back as well. So everybody's got an incentive to economize on their use of the scarce resource. That incentive comes from paying to use it. The owners of the resource are everybody, not just the ones who are using it the most. Ooh, that's the basic thing. This is paying to park carbon in the atmosphere. It would be disingenuous to think that the companies are going to be the ones who pay, and that this is not going to be passed along to consumers. We know that it will be, just as when OPEC raises cuts production of oil and raises the prices, ExxonMobil passes that on to the consumers. And I think we should, confront that squarely. That said, when one talks about polluters, if one uses that, I'm thinking about Ellen's, point about what words to use. When one talks about polluters, right? Well, is ExxonMobil the polluter, or am I the polluter when I buy their gas and pump it? I think it's kind of like both, and polluter in a way covers both. So let me suggest language. Let me suggest you put this in your focus group. Yeah. Dan, when you do this. I looked actually in preparation for this. I looked at how question 1 was phrased in the short version, right? So I kind of modeled this on the way they phrase it, right? How do you phrase it? So it starts out with a yes vote would, right? That's how it starts. So here's what I would suggest. This is something to test, right? A yes vote would send quarterly carbon dividend payments to all residents of Massachusetts, funding by charging polluters for their carbon pollution. I think that's what we're talking about, right? And it puts the carbon dividend up front, right? It doesn't put the tax up front. Rebate sounds, to me, it's always sound a little tacky, like you get a cent in your coupon. It's your dividend. It comes with your ownership of the common resource. So I would say, this is why you guys can tweet it. A yes vote would send quarterly carbon dividend payments, or you could just say quarterly dividend payments, to all residents of Massachusetts, funded by charging polluters